Please like and subscribe to the channel if you find this video interesting and useful. Give me more ideas you want me to make. Enjoy watching the video. Emily Fletcher, a city girl with lustrous brown hair and eyes that perpetually mirrored the skepticism of her early 20s, dragged her discounted Louis Vuitton suitcase over the cobblestone streets of Apple Creek. The small town seemed perpetually stuck in a sepia-toned past, where local general stores still sported hand-painted signs and birdsong easily drowned out the murmur of distant car engines. She, an ambitious graphic designer from New York, was on an unwilling mission to shelter with her grandmother Aggie for a week to finalize her portfolio. The scent of fallen leaves and ripe apples hung heavy in the air, a stark contrast to the familiar aroma of coffee and asphalt in Manhattan. Emily thought to herself, 1 week. Just 1 week. Then I'll escape this place and return to civilization. As she approached the small, teal-colored wooden house, her heart sank. Instead of the tranquility she expected from a septuagenarian grandmother, a jarring cacophony of trap hip-hop blasted from the slightly ajar front door. A neon pink and blue light flashed intermittently, as if a disco had somehow migrated to this quiet residential street. Emily frowned, her hand still clamped tightly on her suitcase handle, feeling as though she was stepping into an alternate dimension. She cautiously pushed the door open, and the scene inside froze her to the spot. Grandma Aggie, the grandmother Emily had always envisioned in floral aprons and smelling of butter cookies, was vigorously dancing in front of a smartphone perched on a tripod. She was clad in a dazzling neon green tracksuit, her hair energetically tied up in a bun, and her hip-hop moves, though somewhat stiff in an elderly fashion, radiated an undeniable energy. She spun, she swayed, she finished with a surprisingly high kick, just as Emily walked in. "Grandma Aggie?" Emily exclaimed, her voice lost in astonishment. Aggie, unfazed, merely turned to her granddaughter with a radiant smile. "Oh, my sweet Emily. You're here. Just in time. Follow me, darling, I'm going viral. This granny shuffle is all the rage on TikTok." She chirped, then turned back to her phone, winking theatrically. Emily stood motionless, her suitcase slipping from her grasp and thudding onto the wooden floor. She felt a wave of nausea churning in her stomach. Was this her grandmother? The woman who used to tell her fairy tales and teach her how to knit? Now she was talking about going viral and TikTok? Emily's world, meticulously organized into Photoshop and Illustrator files, seemed to be crumbling. "Grandma, what are you doing?" Emily asked, still unable to believe her eyes. "Making a video, of course. This is how I connect with the youth, my dear." Aggie replied, her voice brimming with pride. "Come on, join me. I'm filming the tutorial part now." Before Emily could protest, Aggie had pulled her into the center of the living room, where the neon lights still pulsed. She handed Emily a backward baseball cap and began demonstrating dance moves. Emily, with her shy and reserved nature, awkwardly moved her limbs like a malfunctioning robot. She tried to mimic her grandmother, but every movement felt clumsy, rigid. While Aggie danced with passionate abandon, as if she had trained her entire life for this moment, Emily felt like she was performing a humiliating pantomime. She glanced at the phone, desperately hoping this video would never be uploaded. But then, something magical happened. When Emily stumbled slightly and almost fell, Aggie quickly caught her. They looked at each other, and then burst out laughing. Aggie's laughter was clear and uninhibited. Emily's, initially hesitant, gradually became more relaxed. They both laughed until their sides ached. It was precisely at that moment, as two generations, two utterly different individuals, shared a moment of genuine laughter, that a small silver object fell from an old wooden box resting on the nearby coffee table. Its soft clatter was almost drowned out by the music and laughter. Aggie bent down to pick up the necklace. It was an old, tarnished silver chain with an intricately carved spiral pendant that emitted a faint, ethereal glow. "Ah, the ancestral necklace," she said, her expression becoming a little more contemplative. "I almost forgot about it. It's said to have been in our family for generations, and rumor has it, it holds our family's deepest wishes." Emily looked at the necklace with a hint of skepticism. She wasn't one to believe in mystique or magic. Wishes? She scoffed. I just wish I could understand how you live your life so happily and full of energy all the time, she said, her tone slightly sarcastic but also containing a hidden admiration. I'm always worried, overthinking everything, while you act as if nothing can bother you. Aggie looked at her granddaughter with a fond gaze. And me, she replied, I wish I could understand what you're so afraid of that makes you so timid and withdrawn. I just want you to live your life to the fullest, without fear. They looked at each other, their eyes filled with unspoken thoughts, with secret desires neither had ever dared to voice. A strange impulse made Emily reach out and touch the necklace in Aggie's hand. Immediately, a jolt of icy energy shot up her arm. At that exact moment, Aggie also touched it. And then, the room poofed with a blinding purple light, swirling like a glitching TikTok filter. The hip-hop music abruptly ceased, leaving only a strange buzzing sound in Emily's ears. The entire room fell into an odd silence, followed by a dizzying sensation. Emily blinked, trying to regain her vision. She felt her body heavy, unfamiliar. She raised her hand, and to her horror, realized it wasn't hers. Wrinkles, age spots, and thin, delicate skin. Her voice, when she managed to utter a sound, was hoarse and weak. What's happening? Just then, an excited, youthful, and energetic scream echoed. Oh my God. A flat stomach. A tiny waist. Darling, I can wear a crop top now. Emily whirled around. Before her, the youthful figure of herself, with her lustrous brown hair and wide eyes, was jumping up and down. But the voice, the gestures, and that smug expression, they were unmistakable. It was Grandma Aggie. Without a single word exchanged, both Grandma Aggie and Emily dashed into the bathroom, where a large mirror hung. The reflection in the mirror made both of them scream simultaneously, a shriek that resonated throughout the quiet neighborhood, making the neighbors likely think Aggie's house was being robbed. Emily stared at the image of an elderly woman with a wrinkled face and silver hair. Aggie, meanwhile, stared at the image of a young girl, with a slender figure and smooth skin, then let out another scream, this time a scream of uncontainable excitement. The swap had occurred. And Emily Fletcher's world, which had already been turned upside down the moment she arrived in Apple Creek, was now completely in disarray. The sun peeked over the ancient oak trees of Apple Creek, casting warm, golden streaks into the living room where the two women, now body-swapped, still stood frozen in disbelief. The incessant chiming of the antique grandfather clock on the mantelpiece echoed through the silence, a stark reminder that a new day had begun, and with it, a myriad of unprecedented challenges. Emily, trapped in Aggie's aging body, felt a sharp twinge in her lower back as she tried to shift her weight. Every joint seemed to protest her slightest intention to move. Oh, my aching back. Emily groaned, her voice raspy. I feel like a truck ran over me. How many years have you lived with this body, Grandma? Aggie, in Emily's youthful and energetic form, merely chuckled, bouncing lightly on her toes. My dear, that's the price of wisdom and experience. But don't worry, I'll show you the secrets to maintaining your youth, even if it's not truly yours. She twirled around, reveling in the lightness of her new body. The first challenge came when Emily tried to read messages on Aggie's ancient flip phone. The tiny screen and her grandmother's cell-made abbreviations, like LOL, as lots of laughter, or BRB, as be right back to the bus, made her dizzy. Emily had to rummage through the pockets of her wool cardigan and pull out a pair of reading glasses. Donning them, the world around her became painfully clear, but the sensation of being old became even more pronounced. I can't believe it, she muttered. Can she actually see clearly with these? Getting out of bed that morning turned out to be a fierce struggle. Emily, accustomed to springing up instantly, now took over 10 minutes to contort, stretch, and slowly get upright. Every movement was accompanied by a crack or pop from her joints. She felt as though she was participating in an unwanted, slow-motion yoga session, with the difficulty level multiplied tenfold. This is torture, she panted when she finally stood firm. It's like gravity has doubled. As soon as she made it to the living room, an army of cats descended. Aggie didn't have one or two cats. She had five. 5 cats of various colors and sizes, all simultaneously leaping onto Emily, meowing insistently for food. They rubbed against her legs, her face, her silver hair, forming a soft but demanding furry mass. Emily, who was not particularly fond of cats, recoiled in alarm, trying to disentangle them from her person. "Grandma Aggie, do you run a zoo in here?" she cried out, almost suffocating from cat fur. While Emily wrestled with the challenges of old age, Aggie was savoring every moment in her granddaughter's youthful body. She sprinted upstairs, bursting into Emily's bedroom, which was filled with design sketches and fashion magazines. Her eyes sparkled like a child who had just discovered a treasure trove. Aggie picked up Emily's phone, switching to selfie mode. She confidently posed in front of the mirror, experimenting with every lighting angle in the room, winking, pouting, puckering her lips like a professional influencer. "This is the most amazing natural light," she exclaimed, snapping dozens of photos. Then, she rummaged through Emily's wardrobe, pulling out a vibrant red crop top that Emily had never dared to wear, not even once. "Confidence is key, my dear," she said, putting on the shirt, revealing a toned midriff. "You've got to flaunt what you've got." Dressed in her new outfit and radiating confidence, Aggie stepped out of the house without hesitation. As she passed by the neighbors, she waved enthusiastically, a wide grin stretching across her face, like a political candidate campaigning. "Good morning, Mrs. Mildred." "Hello, Mr. Henderson," she called out loudly, Emily's voice echoing down the street. The neighbors, accustomed to a quiet, shy Emily, stared at her with expressions of utter astonishment. "Is that Emily?" Mrs. Mildred whispered to Mr. Henderson. "She looks different." The highlight of this fateful morning was the encounter with Jack, the handsome neighbor across the street, whom Emily had secretly admired but never dared to speak to. Jack was watering roses in his front yard. His tousled brown hair and warm smile always made Emily's heart skip a beat. Aggie, in Emily's body, did not miss the opportunity. She strode towards Jack, Emily's lustrous brown hair flowing in the breeze. She flipped her hair, gave him a theatrical wink, and then asked in the most seductive tone Emily had never dared to use, "Hi, Jack. Do you like confident girls?" Jack, who had been bent over watering plants, startled and looked up. His handsome face flushed an adorable shade of red. He stammered, yeah, I do." You look different, Emily." Aggie beamed, linking one arm through Jack's. "That's right. New Emily is here." Or would Jack like to grab a coffee with Emily to find out just how interesting this new Emily is? Meanwhile, Emily, in Aggie's body, stood behind the living room curtain, witnessing the entire scene. She felt a surge of anger welling up inside her, a mix of embarrassment and indignation. "What are you doing in my body?" she seethed to herself, her voice hoarse, barely audible even to her own ears. The image of Jack blushing and Aggie openly flirting with him made Emily want to disappear into the ground. Her long-held secret crush was being ruined by her grandmother in a single morning. This body swap was not just an inconvenience, it was a social catastrophe. The first full day of the body swap was a brutal test where normal routines became unimaginable obstacles. For Emily, trapped in Aggie's elderly body, a simple trip to the grocery store for necessities morphed into a grueling and embarrassing ordeal. As soon as she stepped into the supermarket, she realized a major problem: her voice. Aggie's voice was already naturally loud and raspy, but now, with Emily inhabiting it, it seemed to possess a uniquely grating frequency. When she tried to ask a store employee for the location of the chocolate aisle, her voice came out too softly, forcing the employee to lean in close to hear her. "What did you say, ma'am?" he asked, looking bewildered. "I said, where is the chocolate?" Emily growled, trying to speak louder, but the result was a piercing yell that made several nearby shoppers jump, dropping their baskets. She was so mortified she wanted to pull a shopping cart over her head. Consequently, instead of leading her to the candy aisle, the employee kindly escorted Emily to the senior citizens section, filled with products like Ensure, sugar-free cookies, and medical supplies. "We have special discounts for seniors today, ma'am," he said with a friendly smile. Emily just wanted to scream that she was only 22 and craved a sugary milk chocolate bar, but she gritted her teeth and endured. While trying to escape the elderly section, Emily tripped over an abandoned shopping cart. Aggie's worn, slippery sneakers offered no traction on the polished supermarket floor. Emily staggered, nearly falling face first. She miraculously managed to grab onto a display of potato chips, sending a dozen bags raining down on her head. The snickers from a group of teenagers nearby made her face burn crimson. The peak of her mortification came when an 82-year-old gentleman, with silver hair and a gummy smile, approached Emily. He blinked, reaching out to gently touch her arm. "You're a spry young lady," he said, his voice trembling with age. "Shopping alone? Let me help you with your cart." Emily was horrified. Being flirted with by someone old enough to be her grandfather was an experience she vowed never to repeat. She gasped out a frantic no and fled the supermarket, leaving her shopping cart and the scattered potato chip bags behind. While Emily was enduring her personal hell at the supermarket, Aggie, in Emily's body, was transforming Emily's usually dull university lecture into a dramatic personal stage. Emily was a graphic design student, known for her quiet, reserved nature, always sitting in the back row. Professor Davis, a stern man in his usual tweed jacket, was leading a project presentation session. "Next up, Emily Fletcher, would you like to present your project?" he asked, his tone slightly surprised as Emily rarely volunteered. And then, the unbelievable happened. Aggie, without a moment's hesitation, raised her hand high, springing from her seat like a coiled spring. "Of course, my dear," she exclaimed, Emily's voice booming across the lecture hall, filled with excitement and confidence. The entire class turned to look, eyes wide. They were used to an Emily who always kept her head down, speaking softly, not this vibrant, energetic Emily. Aggie strode to the podium, grabbing the microphone as if she had commanded this stage her entire life. Professor Davis watched in astonishment as Aggie adjusted the microphone, her eyes sweeping across the lecture hall with the confidence of a seasoned TED Talk speaker. "Good morning, my promising young minds," she began, completely ignoring the graphic design project Emily was supposed to present. Instead, she launched into a lengthy anecdote about her wild youth, about her years as a DJ in underground clubs in the 60s, about incredible adventures, and about pursuing passion despite all odds. "You know," Aggie said, her voice full of philosophy, "life is short. You have to love yourselves as much as I love my cats. Don't be shy, don't be afraid. Be true to yourselves, and let your creativity burn like the fire of youth." She concluded with an inspiring remark, almost entirely unrelated to graphic design, yet it resonated with many students. The entire class, shifting from surprise to delight, erupted in applause. The applause was long and sustained, accompanied by cheers. The usually quiet Emily had suddenly become the energy queen of the department. Professor Davis, though somewhat bewildered by the off-topic presentation, couldn't deny Aggie's charisma and captivating presence. And then another unexpected event occurred. After class, as Aggie was preparing to leave, a group of students from the university's media club approached Emily. "We were so incredibly impressed with your presentation," one girl said, her eyes sparkling. "You have amazing energy, and your stories are truly inspiring. Would you consider being a media representative for our club? We think you'd be perfect for attracting people." Aggie, without a moment's hesitation, flashed a radiant smile and agreed immediately. Emily Fletcher, the shy and introverted individual, had now become a face of the university, thanks to her grandmother's audaciousness and explosive energy. That night, when Emily and Aggie reunited, both carried vastly different stories and experiences. Emily was exhausted and mortified by the embarrassing situations at the supermarket. Aggie, meanwhile, was radiant, recounting the thunderous applause and the invitation from the student club. They looked at each other, realizing that this body swap not only brought inconveniences, but also unveiled new, wild, and utterly unpredictable facets of their lives. While Aggie was embracing her vibrant new college life with gusto, Emily, trapped in her grandmother's aging body, was sinking into despair and a desperate search for a way to reverse their predicament. Aggie's small wooden house, once a symbol of peace and nostalgia, now felt like a labyrinth of mysteries. Emily, with the keen eye of a graphic designer, began meticulously scrutinizing every nook and cranny, every old object, hoping to unearth any clue about the magical necklace. She rummaged through dusty bookshelves, seeking ancient tomes on family legends or antique journals. She examined every drawer, every box. Each step she took was heavy, and bending down to search sent sharp pains through her back. She silently cursed every time she had to put on the reading glasses to decipher tiny inscriptions on various items. "There has to be an explanation," she muttered. "She can't just be an ordinary old lady." And then suddenly, TikTok danced like a 16-year-old. Her search led Emily to the house's basement, a place she had never dared to venture into when she was herself. The old wooden stairs creaked under each step, leading down to a dark, damp space. The smell of moist earth and old belongings assailed her nostrils. When she flicked the light switch, a weak yellow glow illuminated the space, and Emily's jaw dropped in astonishment. This was no ordinary storage basement. This was a secret museum, a sanctuary of Aggie's rebellious youth and adventurous life. Every wall was adorned with memorabilia Emily never would have imagined her grandmother owning. In one corner, a black leather biker jacket, worn but still retaining its inherent coolness, was proudly displayed. On its back, an stylized skull with goggles was embroidered, along with the fiery lettering, "Hellfire Grannies." Emily reached out to touch the jacket, feeling the thick leather and the scent of time-worn dust. Hellfire Grannies? Was Grandma Aggie a member of a motorcycle gang? Beside the jacket hung a matte black full-face helmet, bearing the scrawled signature of a 70s motorcycle legend. Emily vaguely recalled the name from an old magazine she had secretly read of her grandfather's. He was a renowned speed racer, an icon of freedom and defiance. What was Aggie's connection to him? Then her eyes landed on an old photograph, enlarged and carefully framed. In the picture, a young Aggie, with long dark hair flying in the wind, was speeding on a high-displacement motorcycle, tearing through winding mountain roads. The wind whipped at her face, but her smile was radiant, her demeanor as spirited as a Hollywood action star. Emily's mouth hung open. This was not the gentle, baking grandmother she knew. This was an action heroine, a free spirit. "You really are, beyond my wildest imagination," she exclaimed, a mix of shock and a touch of admiration in her voice. She continued exploring, finding an old metal box tucked away behind a stack of old newspapers. When she opened it, a bundle of faded, ribbon-bound love letters lay neatly inside. Emily curiously pulled out a letter, skimming through it. It was a passionate letter, with fervent words, signed by a completely unfamiliar name. She pulled out another, and then another. To her horror, there were 4 different names, from 4 different men, all writing heartfelt declarations of love to Aggie. "Don't read that, that's ancient history." A youthful yet authoritative voice echoed from behind her. Aggie, in Emily's body, had appeared on the basement stairs, arms crossed, watching her granddaughter with a mysterious half-smile. Emily jumped, dropping the letters. She turned around, her face a mix of embarrassment and intense curiosity. Grandma Aggie, you were part of a biker gang called Hellfire Grannies? And these letters, there are 4 different men who wrote to you." Aggie descended the stairs, her eyes in Emily's body sparkling mischievously. My dear, my life holds far more excitement than what you see on your friends' Instagram feeds. Hellfire Grannies was just a motorcycle club, you know. And those love letters, those were the adventures of youth. Who doesn't have a few romances in their younger days? But then, Aggie grew a little more contemplative. "You know, before your grandfather came along, I was almost married 3 times. She said, her voice soft, but her words dropped like a bombshell into Emily's worldview. Once to a race car driver, once to a nomadic musician, and once to a romantic poet. Each one brought a different part to my life. Emily was utterly stunned. Her grandmother, whom she had always thought of as the epitome of a gentle, dutiful wife, had once led a tumultuous past, filled with passionate romances and incredible adventures. The image of her grandmother knitting and baking completely shattered, replaced by the image of a strong, independent, passionate woman. "You really are beyond my wildest imagination," Emily repeated, but this time it was no longer sarcasm, but a deep reverence. She realized that Aggie hadn't just lived a happy life, she had lived a full life, fearlessly embracing every challenge. This discovery not only unveiled Aggie's secrets, but also forced Emily to re-examine herself, her timidity, and the fears that held her captive. This body swap, though a disaster, was perhaps also an opportunity for her to discover her true self, and her grandmother's true self as well. Apple Creek's annual Fall Festival was always the biggest event of the year, a bustling gathering for the entire town. Streets were adorned with pumpkin lanterns, long tables were laden with baked goods and homemade treats, and a small stage was set up in the town square for performances and announcements. Emily, in Aggie's body, had tried to convince her grandmother to stay out of the spotlight, but Aggie, in Emily's body, naturally wouldn't listen. She was already accustomed to being the center of every party. "My dear, this is a golden opportunity for Emily to shine," Aggie declared, her eyes sparkling, while Emily just wanted to crawl into a dark corner. "I'll introduce you to everyone, and you'll see, people here are lovely." The party was in full swing. Aggie, in Emily's body, blended seamlessly into the crowd, laughing, chatting, and greeting everyone as if she were the life of the party. Everyone was surprised by Emily's incredible transformation, from a shy girl to someone brimming with energy and personality. Jack, the handsome neighbor, was also there, and Aggie continuously flirted with him, making Emily, in Aggie's body, burn with internal rage from afar. "She's going to ruin everything," Emily muttered, trying to navigate through the crowd, but her elderly legs were too slow. And then an unexpected incident occurred. The festival's main MC, Mr. Peterson, suddenly experienced severe stomach cramps and had to rush to the restroom immediately. The entire square descended into chaos, no one knowing what to do. As the organizers frantically searched for a replacement, Aggie, in Emily's body, quickly seized the opportunity. She strode onto the stage to everyone's surprise, snatching the microphone from a panicking organizing committee member. Emily, from a distance, witnessed the scene, her heart pounding. She tried to run as fast as she could, but Aggie's legs betrayed her. Each step was painful, and she could only move slowly through the increasingly dense crowd. "No, you can't do that," Emily cried out, but her voice was too weak, lost amidst the music and chatter. Aggie held the microphone, flashing a radiant smile. "Hello, everyone. This is my first time emceeing." She paused for a moment, waiting for everyone's attention. "But I used to be a DJ in 1965 at the Groovy Groove Club." The entire neighborhood gasped in surprise and delight. The stage lights began to change colors to the beat. The music started playing, but it wasn't the mellow playlist the organizers had prepared. It was Aggie's TikTok playlist. Lively hip-hop and pop tunes filled the square, making some older folks shake their heads, but exciting the younger crowd into cheers. Aggie, unfazed, continued the program. She had to announce the winner of the Best Baked Pie, but unprepared, she misread the name. "Congratulations, Mr. Robertson with his delicious pumpkin pie," she declared with dramatic flair. The entire neighborhood suddenly fell silent. Then a roar of boos erupted from the crowd. It turned out the award was supposed to go to Mrs. Lindy for her legendary apple pie, a woman known as Mr. Robertson's arch-nemesis. Mrs. Lindy, a stout woman with her hair in a tight bun, jumped up, her face red with anger. "What? My pie was the best. Mr. Robertson's baking is terrible." People began to murmur, but Aggie, as Emily, deftly turned the tense situation into a humorous exchange. "Oh, darling Mrs. Lindy. Perhaps Emily was just enchanted by Mr. Robertson's pie aroma. But don't worry, you can teach Mr. Robertson a lesson about your apple pie recipe. I'm sure he'd be delighted to learn." Emily's witty and clever response transformed the booing crowd into laughter. Even Mrs. Lindy couldn't help but crack a smile at her charm. The party, which almost became a disaster, turned into a night full of laughter and memorable moments. Emily, finally pushing her way closer to the stage, witnessed the entire scene. She couldn't believe that Aggie could handle the situation so skillfully and turn a mistake into such a triumph. She felt a surge of admiration, a feeling she never thought she'd have for her grandmother. And then another unexpected thing happened. As the party drew to a close, a sharply dressed man, looking like an event manager, approached Aggie as Emily. "Hello, Miss Fletcher," he said, his face impressed. "I'm the event director for next year's festival. I'm truly impressed by your quick thinking and charm. Would you like to be the main MC for our festival next year? We're willing to pay handsomely." Aggie, of course, nodded enthusiastically. Emily Fletcher, the shy girl, was now the main MC of the fall festival, once again thanks to Aggie's boldness and confident demeanor. When the two returned home, Emily looked at Aggie with new eyes. She was still confused and angry about what her grandmother had done in her body, but she also couldn't deny that Aggie had given Emily an experience and an opportunity she had never dared to dream of. This body swap, each day bringing a new surprise, forced them to confront different aspects of themselves and each other. Night had fallen deep in Apple Creek. Moonlight streamed through the window, casting silver streaks on the wooden floor. In Aggie's cozy kitchen, Emily, in Aggie's body, and Aggie, in Emily's body, sat facing each other by the crackling fireplace. The air was heavy with unspoken thoughts and confusion. Both had endured chaotic days, full of trouble yet not without their surprising moments. Emily had faced the fears of old age and unwanted attention, while Aggie had reveled in the freedom and energy of youth. "We can't keep living like this," Emily said, her voice hoarse but resolute. She reached up to gently rub her temples, feeling the familiar ache from the day of the swap. "I can't live your life, and you can't live mine. We need to find a way to swap back." Aggie nodded, her face showing a rare seriousness. "I agree, my dear. Although emceeing the fall festival was fun, I miss my cats too much. And I also miss the feeling of being myself." She stroked Emily's smooth hair, an unfamiliar but affectionate gesture. They decided to focus on the only clue they had, the mysterious silver necklace. Emily recalled the ancient notes in the ancestral journal she had found in Aggie's secret basement. With her reading glasses perched on her nose, Emily carefully turned each yellowed page, reading aloud the faded old handwriting. "Here it is," Emily exclaimed, pointing to a passage written in faded purple ink. "It says, 'Only when two hearts truly understand each other and speak what is hidden, shall the necklace return their true forms.'" They looked at each other. "Two hearts understand each other," Aggie repeated, her face thoughtful. "And speak what is hidden?" Emily sighed. "I guess it means we have to be honest with each other about what we're feeling, about our fears, our secret desires that we've never voiced. That's what caused us to swap in the first place." But then, Emily read another line, her voice suddenly tightening. "Wait, there's something else. The longer you hide, the stronger the side effects." "What side effects?" Aggie asked, her face in Emily's body suddenly looking worried. Emily tremblingly turned to the next page. The next line was written in shaky handwriting, as if the writer had been very afraid to record it. "May randomly swap with the nearest person." Both grandmother and granddaughter looked at each other, a shiver running down their spines. The thought of being swapped with a complete stranger, any random neighbor or even Jack, made them turn pale. "No way," Emily exclaimed, her voice filled with panic. "We have to swap back immediately." However, despite knowing how to swap back, the execution was far from easy. Both Emily and Aggie were famously stubborn and headstrong individuals. They still held on to their prejudices, their hurts, and their unspoken grievances about each other. Emily was still furious that Aggie had disrupted her life, and Aggie was still annoyed by her granddaughter's timidity and lack of confidence. "I still don't understand why you're so afraid," Aggie said, crossing her arms. "Life is for experiencing, for exploring. And I don't understand how you can be so carefree that you cause all sorts of trouble without worrying." Emily retorted, not to be outdone. You embarrass me in front of Jack. Each time they argued, the necklace on the table suddenly began to flicker strangely. A faint purple light pulsed with each contentious word, as if warning them of something. Both noticed it, but their stubbornness still outweighed their fear. They still couldn't truly understand each other and speak what is hidden with genuine sincerity. The argument continued, the necklace flickered more intensely, and the apprehension about the side effects grew. Both knew they were treading a dangerous path, but shedding the emotional layers that had built up over years proved harder than they imagined. Could they overcome their stubbornness and truly open up to each other before that terrifying side effect occurred? Time was running out. The tension between Emily and Aggie had grown thicker than Apple Creek's famous apple butter. Days turned into a series of awkward encounters and subtle skirmishes, punctuated by the alarming flickers of the silver necklace. Each flash of purple light was a chilling reminder of the looming side effect, the possibility of an involuntary swap with an unsuspecting bystander. The fear of randomly switching bodies with Mrs. Henderson, or worse, with Jack, hung heavy in the air. Jack, the handsome neighbor, had been growing increasingly bewildered by Emily's erratic behavior. One moment, she was the confident, flirtatious life of the party, initiating coffee dates and philosophical discussions. The next, she was withdrawn, almost fearful, with a strange, raspy voice and an inexplicable aversion to the cats that usually swarmed her grandmother's house. He had observed her from afar, noticed the heated whispers exchanged between Emily and Aggie, and seen the strange shimmering light emanating from the house during their arguments. His curiosity, coupled with a genuine concern for Emily, compelled him to investigate. One evening, as Emily, in Aggie's body, and Aggie, in Emily's body, were having another heated discussion in the garden, their voices low but firm, Jack happened to be tending to his rose bushes next door. The fence separating their yards was low, and the twilight air carried their hushed words across. He heard snippets about the swap, the necklace, and side effects. Initially dismissing it as an elaborate game or a senile ramblings, a strange clarity began to settle over him as he listened more intently. The pieces clicked into place: Emily's sudden change in personality, Aggie's youthful exuberance, the uncharacteristic flirting. He gasped softly, the gardening shears clattering from his hand. He believed them. The impossible had happened. Determined to help, Jack devised a plan. He knew that the barrier between them wasn't physical, but emotional. He approached them a few hours later, a gentle smile on his face, a string of fairy lights in his hand. "Hey, Emily, Grandma Aggie," he called out carefully. I heard some things. And I think I can help." Both Emily and Aggie stared at him, their faces a mixture of shock and betrayal. "You heard?" Emily, as Aggie croaked, her voice laced with panic. "How much did you hear?" Jack held up his hands reassuringly. "Enough to understand. Enough to believe you. And enough to know you both need to talk, truly talk, from the heart." He proceeded to string the fairy lights across Aggie's garden, transforming it into a whimsical, intimate space. He put on some soft, ambient music, creating a calming atmosphere. "Just talk to each other," he urged gently. "I'll be here, as a neutral party, if you need me." Aggie, still in Emily's body, took a deep breath. She looked at Emily, as Aggie, her youthful eyes filled with a tenderness Emily hadn't seen in years. "Okay," Aggie began, her voice soft, devoid of its usual boisterousness. "I'll go first. Emily, my dear, I was always so worried about you. You lived so cautiously, so afraid to step out of your comfort zone. I saw so much potential in you, so much vibrancy waiting to be unleashed, but you kept it all locked away. I just wanted you to believe that you are stronger than you think. Stronger, more capable, more resilient. I wanted you to see the world, truly experience it, not just design it on a screen." Emily, in Aggie's body, felt a lump form in her throat. Aggie's words, though gentle, struck a chord deep within her. All her life, she had felt misunderstood, judged for her quiet nature. To hear that her grandmother's perceived judgment was actually a deep-seated concern, a desire for her happiness, was overwhelming. Tears welled up in her eyes, blurring the fairy lights into shimmering halos. I always thought you didn't understand me, Grandma, Emily confessed, her voice thick with emotion, the raspy tone of Aggie's body making her confession even more poignant. I always thought you saw my quietness as a weakness, my caution as a flaw. I was always so afraid of making mistakes, of failing, of not being good enough. Every decision felt like a monumental risk. But when I was in your body, living your life, even for just these few days, I saw how many challenges you faced, how many adventures you embarked on, and yet you remained joyful, optimistic. You took risks, you embraced the unknown, and you always found a way to laugh. I see that now. You didn't just live a happy life, you lived a brave one. As Emily finished, her voice breaking, she reached out her wrinkled hand. Aggie, in Emily's body, grasped it tightly. They looked into each other's eyes, not as two individuals trapped in the wrong bodies, but as a grandmother and granddaughter who finally, truly understood each other. A wave of profound warmth washed over them, a feeling of connection that transcended their physical forms. And then, as their hands clasped and their hearts connected, the silver necklace, which had been resting on a nearby garden table, began to glow intensely. The soft, ambient music seemed to swell, and a gentle wind began to swirl around them, rustling the leaves in the trees and making the fairy lights dance wildly. The purple light, no longer an alarming flicker, pulsed with a vibrant, healing energy. Plot twist: the swirling wind intensified, creating a small vortex around the three of them. Jack, standing a few feet away, suddenly felt an inexplicable pull, a strange tingling sensation spreading through his limbs. His eyes widened in terror as the wind seemed to tug at his very being. I don't want to be in anyone's grandma's body, he shrieked, his voice filled with abject horror, fearing he was about to be caught in the magical exchange. The wind swirled around him for a terrifying moment, before focusing back on Emily and Aggie, leaving Jack to collapse onto a garden bench, shaking, but thankfully, still in his own body. The magic had nearly claimed a third victim. The intense purple light pulsed one last time, reaching a dazzling crescendo before slowly, gracefully, fading away. The swirling wind died down, leaving the garden eerily still, save for the gentle rustle of leaves and the faint hum of the fairy lights. Emily and Aggie, who had been locked in an embrace, slowly pulled apart, blinking as their eyes adjusted to the fading light. A new sensation washed over Emily. Her body felt lighter, more agile. Her vision, without the help of reading glasses, was suddenly crystal clear. She instinctively reached up to touch her face, smooth skin, familiar contours. Her hands, no longer wrinkled and frail, were her own young, artistic hands. I'm back, Emily gasped, her voice no longer hoarse, but clear and youthful. A wave of immense relief washed over her, mingled with a profound sense of self-awareness. Aggie, standing opposite her, mirrored her granddaughter's reaction. She looked down at her hands, which were now adorned with familiar age spots and wrinkles. Her back, once straight and nimble in Emily's body, now carried the comforting ache of her years. She reached up to touch her silver hair, a contented smile spreading across her face. "And I'm back home," Aggie exclaimed, her voice gruff and warm, exactly as Emily remembered it. She looked at Emily, her eyes twinkling mischievously. "Though I must say, darling, your body certainly kept me on my toes." Jack, still trembling slightly on the garden bench, slowly pushed himself up. He approached them cautiously, his eyes wide. Are you both yourselves again?" he asked, his voice a little shaky. Emily and Aggie looked at each other, then burst into relieved laughter. "Yes, Jack," Emily confirmed, feeling an unprecedented lightness in her heart. "We are." The experience had profoundly changed them both. Emily felt a new surge of confidence coursing through her veins. The fear of making mistakes, of not being good enough, had been replaced by a newfound courage, a willingness to embrace life's challenges. Aggie, while happy to be back in her own skin, felt a renewed appreciation for her granddaughter's quiet strength and her unique perspective on the world. That very evening, to celebrate their return to their true selves, Aggie threw an impromptu barbecue party in the garden. The air was filled with the delicious aroma of grilled food, laughter, and a sense of joyous camaraderie. Neighbors, including Mrs. Lindy, who received a special apple pie from Aggie as an apology for the festival mishap, gathered around, enjoying the festivities and the strangely radiant atmosphere emanating from the Fletcher household. In the days and weeks that followed, the effects of the body swap continued to manifest in unexpected ways. Emily, now brimming with a quiet self-assurance, found herself daring to do things she would never have considered before. One sunny afternoon, she mustered all her courage and invited Jack for coffee. To her delight, he readily accepted, a shy, appreciative smile on his face. Their conversation flowed easily, free from the awkwardness that had always plagued Emily before. She found herself talking about her design ideas with newfound passion and even shared a few amusing anecdotes about her grandmother's TikTok adventures. Jack, in turn, found himself drawn to this new Emily, who was still thoughtful and artistic, but now possessed a captivating spark. Aggie, with her boundless energy, took on a new role, Emily's personal confidence coach. Stand tall, darling. Shoulders back. Project your voice. Breathe from your diaphragm, she would instruct, often demonstrating with exaggerated gestures. Emily, instead of cringing, found herself absorbing the lessons, her posture straightening, her voice gaining a new resonance. Aggie also encouraged Emily to take more creative risks in her graphic design projects, inspiring her to infuse them with more personality and bold ideas. And the biggest, most unexpected outcome? The two Fletchers, grandmother and granddaughter, decided to launch a new TikTok channel together. They called it the Fletcher Switch Team. Their first video, a humorous recap of their body-swapping misadventures, complete with recreated scenes and playful banter, went viral almost instantly. Emily, with her sharp editing skills, blended perfectly with Aggie's natural charisma and wild storytelling. Their channel became a sensation, a testament to their unique bond and their journey of mutual understanding. Final plot twist. One quiet evening, as Emily and Aggie were scrolling through their TikTok comments, the silver necklace, which Aggie had placed on the coffee table as a reminder of their shared experience, began to hum softly. A faint, almost imperceptible shimmer of purple light flickered around it. Simultaneously, the lights in the house began to flicker, once, twice, then continuously. All three of them, Emily, Aggie, and Jack, who had just dropped by with a plate of homemade cookies, stared at the necklace, then at the flickering lights, their eyes wide with a mixture of dread and amusement. In unison, their voices filled the cozy living room. Please, not again. No more swapping.